Well, Hispanic voters will play a key role in the 2012 general election. There are currently 10 states with an Hispanic population of 15% or higher, and of those 10 states, half of them are in the battleground, at least for now, for November. Joining me now is Alfonso Aguilar, who's the executive director of the Latino Partnership for Conservative Principles, and MSNBC contributor Maria Teresa Kumar, the executive director of Voto Latino. All right, I showed that map. Well, let me start with you. Half of these, you look at this, and it's not a pretty picture for Republicans because you look at the 10 states. 4 are blue. 5 are yellow, meaning they're in our swing state category, and only 1 is in red, and who knows for how long. Right. This is obviously an electoral college problem for the Republican Party.
Well, I would say this boils down to Florida, especially the I-4 corridor, Nevada, Colorado, and perhaps New Mexico. I think that...
and I think the Obama campaign would say, and perhaps Arizona. But we can talk about that in a minute.
Right. Yeah, I think that's hopeful thinking on their part. But I think, look, Republicans have an opportunity. Latino voters are upset at the president. He promised that he would push immigration reform. He didn't deliver. And under his mandate, deportations have skyrocketed. And this is something that has been underreported, really. That has had a very negative impact in the community. At the end of his term, Barack Obama would have deported 1.5 million individuals. So that's definitely much more than George Bush or any president in the modern era.
You know, Alfonso, we hear that from you. We don't actually hear that from the Republican presidential candidates. They don't want to talk about that part on immigration. But do you think this is going to have an impact? Is there Hispanic disappointment out there that the president hasn't gone further on immigration? He rhetorically does, but does he actually put his physical shoulder into it?
Absolutely, and I think that this is, taking a step back. If Governor Romney right now was running and not candidate Romney, the president would really have a run for his money because Governor Romney very much talked about the importance of immigration. He really talked about business. He talked about taxes. He talked about education in a way that was actually very open to the Latino community. Unfortunately, we right now have candidate Romney, who's actually talking about self-deportation. That doesn't make sense to anybody. The fact that he's denying DREAM Act, which overall, not just Latino voters, but across the board, independent voters also agree with, that's where he gets kind of stuck. When you start talking about Florida and you start talking about the I-corridor, he won Florida overwhelmingly, but Florida right now is literally divided between 100,000 votes between Democrats and Republicans in the Latino community. So it's going to be tough, and Arizona is in play.
Well, it's funny, looking at the hard numbers from 2008, in Florida, Obama won Hispanic 57-42. In Arizona, he won it 56-41. That was with McCain on the ballot. McCain probably overperforming. If he wins it at a level that he won, and let me go through this, Colorado 61-38, he won Nevada Hispanic 76-22. That's a little outlier, but let's say it's 61-38 Colorado, and it's more like that. Well, suddenly that takes Arizona and makes it a 53-47 state right away.
Right. Well, again, I don't know if we're going to get there. I think we're going to do well in Arizona. I mean, even Jan Brewer, the governor of the state of Arizona in the last election, got 40% of the Latino vote. I think, look, Latinos, immigration is not the number one issue for Latinos.
But DREAM Act gets a ton of coverage in the Hispanic media. How impactful is that?
No, it is important. I have to say, to give credit to Governor Romney, he's starting to clarify his position on immigration. On the DREAM Act, he said that he now supports a modality of the DREAM Act, giving legal status to those who came here illegally as minors if they're willing to serve in the armed forces. So that's a step forward. I think if Romney continues to clarify his position, how he wants to reform the legal immigration process, that may actually help him with Latino voters.
Maria, let me ask you, there's also a lot of Hispanics, devout Catholics. Did anything that happened last week in that debate about contraception and the Catholic Church worry you as somebody who's simply trying to get the Hispanic vote out in big numbers for Democrats?
Not surprisingly, because and I don't want to overstate it, but Latinos often come from large families. They actually supported the president in contraception, and overwhelmingly the majority of Catholic Hispanics supported the president in contraception more than your average white voter. And I think they recognize this is a personal issue, it's a family issue. But let me get back to the Romney roster. Yes, he's changing his modality on how he talks about DREAM, but look who his friends are: Chris Kobach, the architect behind Alabama and the Arizona law, and all of a sudden Governor Pete Wilson, that basically was the one that turned California blue because he was so anti-immigrant. So you are who your friends are. He speaks in Florida to Latino community in Spanish, and then the rest of us in English, and doesn't realize that we click the channel and we speak both. And he has to and I think for him to win, he has to go back into what his basics are. Talk about business, talk about job creation, and that's where he can get the Latino community.
Alfonso, you wanted to jump in?
I agree in that respect. I would say it doesn't help Romney to associate himself with a Chris Kobach or Pete Wilson. But again, I mean, the president of the United States has a problem, and the problem is his deportations. He's going to deport 1.5 million individuals, and that's something that is not getting a lot of play in mainstream media.
Can the Republicans make that argument?
Well, absolutely. If look, under George Bush, we had less.
If George Bush was winning, it would be great. I mean, I think.
Well, but Romney's talking about self-deportation. I tell you, for Latinos, self-deportation is much better than forceful deportations. So it depends how he handles the issue. I don't think we've heard everything from Romney on immigration. I think he's going to clarify his position, and at the end, if he does become the nominee, I think we're going to have a more constructive position on immigration. Now, on the HHS decision, I think it's going to have a very big impact on Latinos. For them, it's not only attacked on religious liberty, but also on their church.
All right, I'm going to have to leave it there. Alfonso Aguilar, Maria Teresa Kumar, thank you both. And
thank you, Chuck.
A good, respectful debate. It's a respectful disagreement.